Right. Let's get everybody. Is everybody in? I think the room's all closed in 22 seconds. Is everybody here? Judges and timers ready? Swimmers, take your mark. All right, group 1. What are the 2 different types of strokes? How are they different, and how might treatment be determined?
Well, the 2 types are ischemic and hemorrhagic. Ischemic is much more common, caused by a blockage of an artery, and hemorrhagic is caused by bleeding in the brain. And the treatment really depends on the level of blockage, how long it occurred, if it is resolved, or really just the nature of the stroke.
Okay, right. So where in the brain, because when we talked about mental health at the beginning of the semester, the brain is very complicated and different things happen in different parts of the brain. So some strokes might affect speech, some might affect movement. So depending on, like you said, where in the brain and how long the event went on for will help determine. And so what happens is that a person, if they are able to get to a hospital, they'll have a CAT scan. And the CAT scan will show where in the brain the stroke occurred or is occurring. And actually what I need to correct, because if you watched the construction worker video, it shows that he got TPA to bust the clot that was causing his heart attack. But now TPA is more commonly used to break up blood clots in the brain. It's more common to use stents to break up the plaque that may be in a blood vessel, a coronary artery that's causing an obstruction. So the drug that was in the video used for the gentleman's heart attack is more commonly used for ischemic strokes, the ones where there are blood clots. Yeah. Okay. Does anybody know anyone who's ever had a stroke? How are they doing? Eric?
They're good. It was my friend's dad, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But it was he went in for some back surgery, and I guess they did something, and he ended up having a stroke from it. So
unfortunately, when you see all the risks associated with having surgeries, sometimes when the body is open, and blood vessels are exposed, that might cause blood clots to form. So that is a risk. Was he on the table when well, never mind. How is he now?
I don't really know.
How is he now?
He's good. They wouldn't let him go back to work for a while though. But he was arguing that he could. So he ended up just going on unemployment or disability and getting a delivery job and just keeping it under the table. So I guess he's fine. He's working still, but not doing what he wants to.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah. All right. Group 2. How does blood get rid of carbon dioxide? Hint, it's the pulmonary circuit.
So when carbon dioxide's in your body, it kind of diffuses from the cells into the blood and then travels into the right part of the heart. And then that goes into the pulmonary circuit, which goes eventually through the pulmonary artery in the capillaries, which then kind of excrete the CO2 into the alveoli, which eventually is exhaled when you take your breath.
Right. So we have deoxygenated blood after the blood has gone throughout the entire body, right? Oxygen goes into the cells, CO2 comes out of the cells. It's a metabolic waste product. Is that what you were saying, Monica? Not Monica. Yeah, that's what I thought. So, and then it travels, the deoxygenated blood then goes back to the heart. What's amazing to me is that we have blood flowing throughout the whole body and blood flowing to the lungs at the same time. Every time your heart beats, you have blood flowing through both of these circuits. I am in awe. But anyway, so right, it enters the right atrium, crosses over the right AV valve into the right ventricle. Then it goes up through what's called the semilunar valve into the pulmonary artery. Arteries take blood away from the heart. the pulmonary artery splits off to the right and left side to go to the right and left lung. Pulmonary refers to lung. They branch off into smaller and smaller diameter vessels till the tiniest diameter vessel is that capillary. And it's at the level of the capillary that the deoxygenated blood meets up with the alveoli, which are those grape-like sacs in your lungs. And the space between the two is so thin that the CO2 can just diffuse out of the bloodstream into the alveoli, which then goes back up through the lungs, and you're exhaling it right now. And then you're inhaling oxygen. Well, you're inhaling a number of different things, but oxygen, which then goes back into the lungs and ultimately to the alveoli, diffuses from the alveoli into the capillaries, and now the blood is oxygenated. So the deoxygenated blood, deoxygenated refers to carbon dioxide or CO2, and that's what's going on at the level of the capillary and the alveoli in the lungs. It's kind of remarkable. All right, what's the difference between atrial and ventricular fibrillation? Group?
So we were talking about how atrial is like more of like a spasm, and it can lead to clotting, which can cause like a stroke. And then there's I should listen to my notes. Sorry.
That's fine.
The other kind is when it's like your blood pulls up in your lungs and it doesn't go to other parts of the body, so it'll pull up in the ventricles. And this like leads to sudden cardiac arrest, basically.
Wait, are you talking about ventricles now?
What?
Are you talking about ventricles now? Sorry, I sort of.
Yeah, sorry, I can't remember the second name, but I remember which is which.
Okay, I'll help you. Or somebody in your group can help you. Or not.
Sorry, it was between atrial and ventricle?
Atrial fibrillation and ventricular fibrillation.
Yeah, so the atrial fibrillation is an atriospasm instead of that can cause clotting and increased risk of stroke, and then ventricular was sudden cardiac death, an abnormal deadly heart rhythm where the heart can't pump blood out of the ventricles, so the blood can't get to the body and it just pools in the ventricles.
Right. So the reason why people can live with atrial fibrillation if they're treated is because when the atria are spasming, if you will, or fibrillating, you still have blood in the ventricles that is going to the pulmonary and the systemic circuit. But if the ventricles are fibrillating, then the blood is pooling there and it's not getting to the body. And what happens, so in the video, what happened to the construction worker who went into VFib, as we say in Grey's Anatomy? They applied the paddles. This is where in all the TV shows you hear them yell clear, because it's a huge electrical current that's going through, that's being applied to the heart. And the purpose of these defibrillators and fibrillate, right? We have atrial fibrillation, ventricular fibrillation, fibrillator is to get the heart to stop its irregular beat and then to start up at one time. And what I was saying to this group was that your heart muscle, your cardiac muscle, is different from skeletal muscle in that the heart contracts and relaxes as if it was one tissue. Whereas your skeletal muscle, when you run, when you move your arms or your legs, they contract at different times. But when your heart contracts, it's as though it's one tissue. Contract, relax, contract, relax. And so if there is one tissue, which we saw which you see in the video, that decides to beat differently, it throws the rhythm of the entire heart off. And that's what causes fibrillation. And what the defibrillator does is it shocks the heart so that it stops and then hopefully starts up again as in that one beat, contracting and relaxing. Okay, so that's kind of amazing. And what are some other examples of arrhythmias?
The two we looked at were tachycardia, and then the bradycardia.
Right.
And then the T1, the first one is when your heart will beat too fast. and then the bradycardia is too slow. And these are both cases. I don't know if I'm wrong about this, but like both of them, you can use a pacemaker to correct, right?
I guess so. I'm not thinking about that right now because I'm thinking of something else, but I thought the purpose of the pacemaker, it sort of replaces the SA node, which is your cardiac pacemaker, to help set the rhythm for the heart. Yeah. So bradycardia is an abnormally slow heartbeat. Now you might, or pulse, you could, if you are physically fit and your heart muscle is strong, then it doesn't take as many beats. It doesn't have to beat as often in order to get as much blood throughout the body. But it's when somebody who isn't fit, if you will, who has a slow heartbeat, that may be a problem. Tachycardia is a rapid heart rate. And for example, when my videos aren't working or when something gets screwed up, my heart rate increases. That doesn't mean I have tachycardia because it comes back down. It's when your heartbeat goes up and stays up and you don't know why. So was that what you were saying, Jack, that your father's heart was increasing, the rate was increasing, but you didn't know why?
Yeah, I think it was something like that where like exercise or lifting would make it go like much higher, like the beat would go much faster. So he would have to just like sit down and wait and like breathe, I guess, until it slowed down, and like he didn't know why. I guess I'm not completely sure.
Well, so exercise would be something that increases heart rate. So the question is, how long was it taking it to come down? But the fact that it caused him discomfort and concern and he got it checked out was a very smart thing. It wound up saving his life, I imagine. So good on him.
Yeah.
All right, group 4. What role does inflammation play?
So buildup of plaque in the arteries can trigger an inflammatory response in the affected artery, and sustained low levels of inflammation may promote the growth of plaque and irritate blood vessels. And inflammation may also loosen plaque in the arteries, which would go on to cause a stroke or heart attack due to the blood clot that it formed. And inflammation can make the plaque rupture and create scar tissue, which is called a fibrous cap. And continued hypertension can cause platelets to form and cause a blood clot from that as well.
Can I just, so it's if that fibrous cap breaks. And that again sends out immune signals. This is an inflammatory reaction going on. This is something that's not supposed to be happening. And yeah, that's what causes the platelets and other thrombogenic, I think was the words that, Khan Academy used them and I took them and put them in the video. Causes thrombogenic activity. That thrombosis is another name for clot, right? So here's an example of where your immune system meets up with your cardiovascular system. If you cut yourself, your hand, your foot, your arm, that causes an immune response. It causes inflammation, it causes scar tissue, but it's on the outside of your body and whatever caused that injury stops. And so ultimately the scar or the scab falls off. But if it's in your arteries and it's from hypertension or from something called high triglycerides that thickens the blood, that can injure your blood vessel wall, which kind of triggers a similar inflammatory response. But it's on the outside of your body. When that insult, if you will, goes away, then the scar and the inflammation and the immune response stop. But if it isn't treated and it continues inside your body, then that's what can lead to a heart attack or a stroke, depending on where the blood flow is being cut off, right? Okay, very good. And finally, what is the DASH diet and why might it help reduce blood pressure? Group 5, wow us. Hello. I can wait. Anybody in group 5 want to share with us what you learned about?
I forget exactly what it stands for, but basically it's just a diet that's specifically low in sodium for people who have high blood pressure. One of the biggest recommendations is to eliminate high sodium levels from their diet. So basically it's just to stay away from processed foods that are high in sodium again, by focusing more on fresh fruits and vegetables and grains and a little bit of meat and fats and things like that. But it's a pretty balanced diet, but just with the elimination of processed foods.
Right. So DASH stands for the dietary approach to stop hypertension. And this was a study that showed that with people who have mild hypertension, that increasing their vegetables and fruits help to slow or reduce their blood pressure as much as medication. And I said in the video, if you know people who have mild hypertension, certainly encourage them to increase their vegetables and fruits, but don't tell them to stop taking their medication unless they're under treatment by a doctor and a dietitian. And what this study also showed was that it might not be so much as too much salt or sodium in the diet, but that it's not enough of the minerals that are found in vegetables and fruits, like potassium, magnesium, calcium. So because only about 25% of the population is actually salt sensitive, meaning that in that percentage of the population, cutting back on salt and added sodium can help lower blood pressure. And that's why there's something else going on. Just like most of the people who have heart attacks, well, half the people that have heart attacks have normal blood cholesterol. So there's something else going on. So in this case, with hypertension, it might not be so much that they're getting too much salt or sodium, but that they're not getting enough of the other minerals. And by increasing their vegetables and fruits, they get the minerals and hopefully can help lower blood pressure. Any questions about the questions? All right, so let me share my screen again because I can, or I can try. Oops, let's see. I hate my life. All right. So, do you guys see this? You folks see one penguin and the words, or do you see a lot of slides? What do you see?
See the main slide.
Okay, good. That means I don't have to swap. All right. So on Sunday from 2 to 3:30, I will be online for a Q&A. Monday, I will send out the questions at noon, my time. You have access to your books, to your videos, to your notes, whatever you have. And then by 6 o'clock on Tuesday, please have them back to me. And then next Thursday, we'll be covering the next topic. But for exam 2, everybody will have to answer. The questions are from the second exam, from the first exam through today. So there's a question from the infection and immunity, and I'll give you a heads up. It has to do with treating coronavirus. I've made up a treatment, and what I'm asking you to do is look at that treatment and answer the questions, because there's a ton of information on infection and immunity. Basically, you need to organize it and answer this question. There's also a question everyone needs to answer on heart disease. And then the other questions you can pick from, there will be a question on combustibles and a question on alcohol. You can pick one of those. There'll be 2 questions on managing your weight. You pick one of those. 2 questions on eating disorders. You'll pick one, and 2 other questions on heart disease, and you'll pick one of those. And the questions from managing your weight through heart disease will come from discussion questions. So I will be saving this as soon as we say farewell, and saving it, and I will post the video so you can look at that. Any questions about the questions?
I have a question.
Yes, absolutely.
How long do you want our responses to be? Are they?
Thank you. You should be able to answer it in a couple of paragraphs. You don't need to write a whole page for each one. So there are short answers. They're not short like in the first exam. They'll be a little bit longer because this is what you're being graded on. The first 2 questions that everyone has to answer are worth about 20 points each, and the others are worth 15. I think that's a total of 100. Honestly, I know what I'm looking for, but I'm not really sure. What the idea is that you organize your material and you have a day and a half to do it, and try to write as clear and concise an answer as possible. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I'm not sure how I get these back to you. I haven't quite figured that out yet, but I guess maybe I'll check with other faculty. How are your other faculty getting your exams back to you? so that you know how you did.
Sending out an answer key for like questions we had that were like multiple choice, and then I don't know about the short answers.
Yeah, I'm sort of protective of my short answers. All right, well, we'll figure something out. But the idea is that the best thing to do is organize your materials. And maybe what you want to do is look at the questions and then organize your materials. I'm not going to tell you what to do. These are extraordinary circumstances, but you have a day and a half to do it. I will send them out and you should get them back, email them back to me. And I guess on Tuesday I could be available during office hours because I don't have anything else to do. So if you have any questions during that time and you just want to drop in and ask, I can't give you the answer to the question, but I can listen. All right. Anything else? Well, thank you for your patience and see you next. Well, I'll see you if any of you come in on Sunday, and I'll send out the questions on Tuesday and meet you back on Thursday. Bye-bye. Happy Easter for those that Easter. Happy Passover for you who Passover. Happy anything else. Get out for a walk.
Hi, Professor. Just wondering when the assignment for the heart disease topic is due.
Before the end of the semester.
Oh, all of them are due? Okay. Gotcha.
Well, now, how many more assignments do you have to do?
I still need to do 2, so I just wanted to see if there's like a hard deadline, like a week after.
There's nothing. I mean, 6 p.m. on Tuesday to have your exam questions back. That's the hard deadline.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll worry about that after then. Thank you.
Sure.
Professor, on the assignments on the thing you sent back to us, the spreadsheet with our names and scores.
Yeah.
If we finished all the assignments and submitted them, would that number be out of 20?
20 out of 20.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay. See ya. Alana, are you gone and you're just haven't logged out yet? All right.
Hello.
Hi. Did you have a question?
Sorry, I cannot hear a thing. I just left my mic on.
Oh, okay.